Undead Matt, of course. And today we have another fantastic, brilliant mind in horror by the name of Jacob Floyd joining us from Nightmare Press. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you for having me on.
Of course, and thank you for coming on. I mean, it's pretty exciting having you on. I feel like I always say that to guests that come on, that it's always exciting. But then again, I mean, for me, it's exciting because I always get this little joy when I get to talk to anybody who's doing anything in horror and just who's a fan of horror in general. So you're calling all the way from Louisville, from what I understand.
They got the riots going on out here, and it's warm. The weather's pretty hot, so I'm waiting for that to change. But everything seems to be calming down and cooling off, so in more ways than one. So that's good.
Well, there you go, man. Yeah, I mean, whenever we can kind of have that breath of fresh air between the mid of any chaos, I suppose, then that's always welcome fresh air.
Right.
And yeah, and I feel you. Yeah, over here on our end, we're still dealing with the wildfires happening in our mountains at the moment, and so like to paint you a picture, it's almost every day is pretty smoky over here, and it's fairly like overcast and cloudy because of a lot of it. So if you ever want to come down here, I guarantee you're going to get some good shade.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's always somewhere.
It won't be the best air quality, but at least you'll have shade.
Hey, the air quality out here is bad too. Everybody always says if you don't have allergies, move to the Ohio River Valley and you will develop them. So.
Really? I feel like I've heard that. I feel like I don't know if it's the River Valley, but I've just been told if you don't have allergies, go to Ohio and you'll get them.
Yep, so, that's true. Little tri-state area here, us and them in Indiana, it's bad out here.
So now I know it's specifically the River Valley. Yeah. So you're joining to talk about a little bit about Chainsaw Gals and also a little bit about Nightmare Press as well. So let's jump into it. What is Nightmare Press and how did it come to be?
Nightmare Press is a small horror press that we started. It began with my second horror novel, Night of the Possums, and I just kind of wanted to do something different with the horror genre that's different than what's going on right now on the small indie pressing. Because as you know, most of the horror that's written is on the small press. There's not really a whole lot on the big trade market right now, and I feel like there's a potential for horror to move forward in the self-publishing / small press indie industry is moving forward a lot. It's kind of the future of writing and publishing. And there's a certain subgenres of horror that's really big on the indie scene, and it seems to be everywhere. And I kind of do something different and kind of help foster in a new breed of authors that want to tell their stories but can't seem to get in with the older presses. So that's kind of why we wanted to do that, because I have a love for books. My wife has a love for books, and I also have a love for horror. And we already had one press called Anubis Press, which dealt with paranormal nonfiction. So we decided to move over into horror as well.
So you have Anubis Press, which is focusing more on the paranormal side of fiction, as you said. And you did that for a little bit, and now with that still going, you're also moving more into directly horror with Nightmare Press. And so you saw this need for, a better life for more indie authors. And I think that's really, really noble of you and your wife. And I really think that's awesome because, fact of the matter is we've talked about it a little bit here and there on the show as well, of books and even novels and comic books and graphic novels as well, kind of being still on the lesser end of being recognized in horror, even unless it's like, unless Stephen King's name is attached to it, there's just a lot of great horror authors that don't get a lot of attention. And I think that's what really was also a driving force to bringing you on the show and getting your message out and getting Nightmare Press out here to our listeners to hear about, because it's what you're doing. It's so cool that you recognize that these amazing creative minds just need that little bit of push, that little bit of spotlight, and you're willing to essentially be that spotlight for them in some of literal and best sense possible. And I think that's such a noble thing that you guys are doing that, and you got our respect, that's for sure. How has the ride been so far, though, with running it? Do you mind talking about maybe some hurdles that you kind of ran into and how you got over them?
The thing about indie press, or even writing in general, anymore is, the idea that someone's going to write a book and just have an automatic hit. That doesn't really happen, not even for big trade authors. I've talked to big trade authors who are on one of the big five, and a lot of them still have to have day jobs and all that. So if people are wanting to just make money real quick, and I think a lot of people get into it wanting to get their book made into a movie. I don't even think people should look at that as goals right away. The people who just love what they do. The hurdle at the beginning was finding that crowd of people that just they're writing books because they want to write horror books. Love it. And we were able to find that corner. But of course at the beginning we made a bunch of plans. We had business plans laid out, and then some life events happened that derailed that pretty bad. So we picked up pieces, and now we're getting back on track. We got about 5 or 6, 7 books or so coming out from different authors. And when it comes to pushing the authors, some people, when they're writers and they decide to open up an indie press, some don't want to publish their own stuff because they feel it's a conflict of interest. And then you got some people who really only start a press to push their own stuff. I wanted to be different, and we wanted to be different. Like with my horror books, I don't really push those as much. I just like writing them. I just recently started pushing ChainsawSisters, and that's been out since, I think it's been almost 2 years now. I've been more focused on this gentleman who's an extremely good author named Todd Sullivan. And he's got these vampire books that are so different from any other vampire story, and I wanted to focus on that. And then we're getting focused on getting these other authors in here, and I'd rather push them. I want to be a place where authors can say, my wife and I, we want our presses to be thought of as, hey, yeah, they're authors too, but if you go over there, they'll really push for you. And that's because I want that. I want our authors to succeed.
I mean, honestly, you kind of just took my breath away with that. I mean, the fact that everything. Okay, so here's how I want to say this. What you just said, I could hear the passion that you have, not just for what you've created with Nightmare Press with your wife, but also what you have been doing for the authors. And I mean, with what you just said, these authors who have this passion to write horror and make these horror stories. I can tell you have this passion to help them and to give them, that assistance. And I think it's really good that you're saying that a lot of these people, sometimes, authors do have the expectation of, let's make this movie worthy, this is movie worthy, and that's like a goal. And I think it's good that you're saying that should never be the goal first. And the reason I say that in particular is that I've noticed when it comes to authors that we've talked to or other publishers that we've talked to, there always seems to be kind of like this little underlying of, what do you need to do to make your book stand out? Because it is a struggle. There's always a lot of books being put out there. And coming back to why your press so great and what you guys are doing. I mean, the fact that you know it can be so rough, and you want to help curve that for authors so it comes back to the fact that I do find it very noble, and I do find it a very great thing that you're doing. But I do think, sometimes, depending on how long you've been writing, sometimes your expectations do kind of have to be somewhat, I'm meaning it a little loosely, but like a little checked, because it's if you focus, I feel like if you focus too hard as an author trying to figure out how to stand out, then you're only inhibiting your own creativity in the long run. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, because I believe that, look, if you want to get picked up by an agent and get a big contract with a big five company, you gotta pretty much inhibit yourself to write what they want. That's depends on the direction you want to go. If that's the direction you want to go, yes. But if you want to have more artistic freedom, you need to probably self-publish or go in the press. And I agree with you. I personally think they need to focus on how they want to write their story. It's good to know the market if you're an author. It's good to know what's already out there and what's popular and what's not and what's been done. But also, if you have a story, even if it's been done, you might have a different version that someone else is going to like. I mean, you look at all the slasher movies that are out there. I mean, the first one was probably maybe Dementia 13 in the 60s, made by Francis Ford Coppola, and now you see it's developed into hell. Well, there's some that are even from the 30s that could be considered early slasher type, and now you got movies that are just that's evolved into this whole other thing. So people have been telling the same story there, and it's the same thing. And if you look, you mentioned Stephen King. Stephen King didn't really come up with any per se original concept. Think of something like Shining, basically a story about a haunted house. only it was his version and told differently. So The Stand is about the end of the world, and it's just told differently. So you can do things that are already been done, just do them differently, and just be you all the time, and always try to improve yourself, challenge yourself. But yeah, I think people need to worry more about the story they're writing than where it's going to go. Worry about where it's going to go after you're done.
Yeah, I think it's just to kind of cap it off. I do think it's that it's easy to fall into that mindset of, oh, okay, I have this really creative element I can put into this story that's been told before in similar ways, but this creative element should make it stand out on its own. And then I feel like it's easy to fall into that self doubt and be like, oh, maybe I should add another creative element and another creative element. Where I feel like it's more beneficial to instead focus on that first creative element that you added into your story, but instead expand on it and really expand on how it influences your overall story. And so I think it's really great that we're having this talk, and I really think it's fantastic what you're saying, because I mean it's not often that we get to hear, not just from an author but also a publisher or a press as well, giving kind of somewhat tips and advice about writing and where your focus should be as a writer. I think that's great. And also I owe a sincere apology. I wrote down in my notes Chainsaw Gals when I should have wrote Sisters. So that's totally my mistake. I do apologize for that. It's Chainsaw Sisters. I apologize. Ghouls, Gals, Creeps, Mutants.
No, it's fine.
But speaking of Chainsaw Sisters, do you want to kind of touch on that a little bit too? And because you sent that to us, and we're actually finishing up the review on that right now. I'm going to be having that posted up on our website here, probably a little either before or after this episode comes out. At the time of recording right now. So yeah, do you want to touch on a little bit on Chainsaw Sisters?
Oh yeah, sure. Hopefully, since you have me on the show, that means you like the book. But
Oh, absolutely.
But okay, so like I just a second ago, I don't want this to sound hypocritical. I said people shouldn't worry about getting their book made into a film, but this book was actually inspired by films more than it was a book. Not that I ever give a crap that if it was ever made into anything. I don't care about that. I couldn't care less if any of my books were ever adapted to anything or not. But
pretty punk rock.
Yeah, right. And with Chainsaw Sisters, originally what happened was I was with another press, and they were coming out with an anthology that was based on old 80s, 80s, 70s schlock films, and that was the premise of that. And so I thought something 80s. My wife and I talked about it, and I wanted to do something with a chainsaw, and we came up with this name for this character. And I thought, okay, sounds 80s, right? But then I sat down. I kind of had a falling out with that press, and then another press was interested in my story. They were doing a 10-year anniversary anthology. So I wrote it real quick, sent it to them, and they put it on their short list. And then something happened, fell through personal reasons. They couldn't finish the anthology right away. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I understand. And my wife and I had been talking about me doing that story with Nightmare Press anyway, because we had just really started getting that going. So I took it and I was like, well, thank you. I said, I'm going to go ahead and pull the story, and it's nothing against it. And it's not because you all had to postpone it. It's because I was kind of wanting to expand it and make it into a bigger story anyway. So I took it, and then that guy ended up unfriending me on Facebook. So I don't know. But anyway, I went ahead and I added the flashbacks. The flashbacks weren't originally in there. I added those, and that's kind of where it expanded. And when I was done with it, the inspiration came from, obviously, if someone was a real big fan of the Texas Chainsaw franchise, they would pick up on the odes with people's names in the book. But it was just because that's one of my favorite films, Chainsaw Massacre. And then also this movie called High Tension. That was a movie I really liked. It was a French film, and it wasn't all that great of a movie, but there were some aspects of it that are really cool. And kind of Sis, the main character, I pictured her looking a lot like the woman in that movie. And anyway, I added my own weird, Jacob Floyd twist to it, because the weird stuff I come up with. But and when I was done with it, it was a little short, and I was like, I like the length of the story. I don't want to lengthen the story, so I took 3 other short stories that I had and stuck it in the novella, and that's kind of where that came from. And I kind of just let it sit for a long time because I was trying to push, trying to get these anthologies together, and my wife and I were working on the anthologies with Nightmare Press. We were working on getting a lot of stuff published with Anubis Press. We had Wild West Press going on, and so we were really doing a lot more. And I was more focused on pushing the other people and getting our other stuff done, because our paranormal nonfiction books are what really brought us to the game as well. So. But yeah, we're really focusing on the horror now. But that's kind of what went on with the Chainsaw Sisters.
So not only are you running two presses at the same time, one for paranormal and one for horror in general, but you also got Chainsaw Sisters, which has inspirations from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and so you're balancing all these things, and I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, I mean, him and his wife together must have like 6 arms or something, because that's that's really impressive. I mean, you're doing all these great things in horror, and it's just kind of, it boggles me and it boggles my mind that not enough people, in my opinion, are talking about Nightmare Press or Anubis. And now, in that case, I mean, I feel like you guys should be getting a lot more attention for everything that you're doing, and I hope this interview does help with that. I hope we do deliver, and we do a good job of promoting you. But I mean, it's just astounding. I mean, when we think about when people talk about chasing your passions and chasing your dreams, there's never really an example of that, other than, like, the cliche rock star or actor, right? But when you really talk to somebody, the amount of work that they're putting in, on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis to do what they want to do, it's really astounding, and it's a lot of work, and I got a high respect for both you and your wife. Me and Cody both do. Do you mind if we shift gears for just a quick moment and play a quick horror game?
Sure, go ahead.
Awesome. So, and again, thank you for coming on. Everybody, make sure you check out Nightmare Press. Make sure you check out Chainsaw Sisters as well. We're going to have that review up along with a preview of the book on our website, www.punkrock.horrorpodcast.com. But jumping into it, so Jacob, recently we played a game called Creature Feature, and I'm pretty sure you can figure out where this is going to go just from that. But the way we changed it up is that we're making it specific to where you come from. So here's the game. You have the budget to make whatever type of creature feature you have always wanted. However, it has to be about an animal that is from your state. So we've had creature features made about pit bulls. We've had creature features made about koalas and ostriches. What would you, from where you're from, Jacob, make a creature feature about?
Well, you're asking the right guy, and the reason I say that is because the first book I published with Nightmare Press was called Night of the Possums, and it's actually about opossums, the type of possums that are in the area of where we live, and it's about a band of mutant possums. There's something going on with them, and they attack Bardstown, Kentucky. So that would be the movie I would make if I had the budget. I would make a movie. If I could make it, I would have control over it. I would make a movie about my book Night of the Possums, simply because confined to this, that would be the one I'd have to make. And that book meant a lot to me. And I'm not going to go into that because we're not talking about my book. But that would be the movie I would make. I would definitely do that one.
Who would you have on your leading cast?
Oh man, that's tough because I don't.
You can pick 3 to 5 if that helps. You can pick 3 to 5 for people.
I don't know. My problem is anymore. I was a movie buff about 15 years ago, and I don't really know any popular actors anymore. Geez, I don't know. It's tough.
You can pick ones from back in the day. That's fine. You can pick ones that you know. That's totally fine.
Okay. So we're gonna pretend like they're a little bit younger, probably than they are now.
Sure. Sure. If we need to.
I don't know. The people in the book are just really, that it would have to be somebody that could really downplay. They have to be like normal people. I would probably look at one of the characters would probably be played by the lady from Walking Dead who plays Maggie. I kind of pictured her looking like her. She's one of the characters. Maybe the maybe one of the main guys could be. I don't know. I could picture him kind of look like Luke Perry, but he ain't playing anybody these days. I'm
How about we
trying to think.
If we can make you the lead actor, the lead male actor, or I could be it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not much of an actor. I don't think I couldn't see me doing that. But no, yeah, it would have to be some rugged looking people, I guess. No, I don't know.
Are you kidding me? I would pay full price to see your beautiful face. I would to see you playing that role. I'm serious. I would do it. I'd be like, Jacob Floyd, are you kidding me? I gotta talk to that guy. Of course I want to see him in this creature feature about possums. Why would I not? That's a witty combo, in my opinion.
I can think of one definite character that I really liked. He was a Vietnam vet, right? He was disabled, and I think Robert De Niro could play him. Robert De Niro is one of my favorite actors, and I could definitely see him playing this guy's role. There's one actually. So there's that.
I like it. No, seriously, respect. I like it.
Oh wait, one guy, named Herbert, and that was kind of a nod to James Herbert, if you're familiar with where he wrote The Rats. But this character I pictured as Mickey Rourke like the whole time I was writing him. So there's definitely a character there, an actor there.
I love it. So you got Maggie from The Walking Dead. You got Mickey Rourke, and you got Robert De Niro. I'm still gonna put you in there just for my sake, because I still think it would work well. I would fully support it.
All right, that works.
So coming back to it, before we wrap up today, I want to ask you a little bit more about Chainsaw Sisters. But before we finish on that, you also have this really cool project going on right now with accepting submissions for an anthology series you're working on. Do you mind touching a little bit on that, on what that is and how people can get involved?
Yes, it's called Kentucky Fried Horror. It's an anthology of horror based in Kentucky. You don't have to be from Kentucky to be in it. And the best way to find anything about it is to look for the Nightmare Press Facebook page, because as of right now we don't have our websites. Because I've been thinking about, we've been going over how we want to build them, and I've figured it out. But it's sent with all of our different presses and different endeavors. It's going to probably have to be a hub and a whole bunch of different stuff. So we don't have that yet. But yeah, just go to the Facebook page, Nightmare Press. You can also join the Anubis Press Dynasty Facebook group. And I also run another group on there called the Indie Author Mafia. Started, and it's all about connecting indie authors to people that can help. And plus, there's all kinds of promos and stuff going on about that. But the best place to find a submission call is on Nightmare Press, and you can just email nightmarepress@yahoo.com to send any submissions that you have, and please send it in a Word doc. I don't want weird docs that I can't load up on there. But other than that, that's pretty much where you can go to get it.
So there you got it, Ghouls, Gals, Creeps, and Mutants. If you are a horror author wanting to get your stuff more out there, Nightmare Press is taking those submissions right now. Make sure you send it in that Word doc, because just like you said, we don't want any weird no file types. But no, for real, make sure you send it in that Word doc. Make sure you send it on over and get your voices heard, because Nightmare Press will take care of you, Ghouls, Gals, Creeps, Mutants. Coming back to Chainsaw Sisters, so I just want to, can you talk a little bit more about the story of Chainsaw Sisters and what it's about, and before we head out for today?
Yes, basically the way I elevator pitch it to somebody is it's about an amnesiac woman who wakes up and thinks that her dead sister is talking to her through a chainsaw, telling her to seek vengeance against the men who killed her. And that's essentially the pitch. That's the whole book in a nutshell. But to add a little extra to it, as she's doing this, she ends up having flashbacks that aren't hers. She has really weird flashbacks that she don't remember. So, and there's where the twist comes in. And I'm not going to give it away. But beware, it's pretty bloody and violent in points. But when I write gore, I don't write just gore. I wrap it in a story, because I hate stories that are just, hey, here's a guy tied to a chair. Let's torture him for no reason, So
You had a little
But yeah,
extra
that
stuff to it.
yeah, it's got to be something. I tell people all the time. I come up with weird ideas. Like I said on my Facebook the other day, I said I wanted to write a book called the Witch Doctor Quintology, and I want the tagline to be "Call him, he'll tell you what to do." And I broke them all up into 5 sections. They're going to be called ooh ah, ting tang. Well, I just put a joke on there, and then someone said, and I was like, don't think won't do it. I write stupid shit all the time. So, but that, because I tell people I want to be the Roger Corman of the industry indie writing of the horror community. I want to
All
write,
right.
I want to write silly ass, but but I want to make it. I want to make it a good story. So
No, respect. I love that you own it. I want to be the Richard Corman of indie horror. I don't think I've heard anyone say that, so I shall definitely apply that to you. That's for sure.
did I say Richard? I meant Roger Corman. Sorry.
Oh, right. Okay. I was like, I was like, I haven't heard of Richard, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
So either way, Roger Corman. My apologies. I mean, so that's we've been reading it here over on our end. Me and our intern Amaya, who has been reading it, who's a little farther along than me. I've been enjoying it. I've been really kind of just imagining this woman in my head who's just like having these moments where, because I'm trying not to spoil anything either, but like I'm just having like these moments of trying to kind of communicate with the chainsaw, and just how morbid it is in some of the scenes, but also tongue in cheek. Kind of, like for me, I think it's pretty funny. Like it just because of certain context of certain parts of the story. Again, I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to spoil anything, and I don't want to risk spoiling anything that could affect the twist either. But it's really just you definitely have a very compelling book, and I mean it's one that has definitely been keeping my interest really well, and Maya's been loving it too, and it's honestly just a great book overall. It's a great story, and I mean the name alone should sell you on it if you haven't checked it out. If you're a horror fan, I mean Chainsaw Sisters, come on, that's pretty badass. So, Jacob, it's been fantastic having you on the show. For anyone who wants to get their copy of Chainsaw Sisters, where should they go?
Right now, you can Amazon. You can just look up Jacob Floyd on there and find me. There's also this book of there's this weird book of odd poetry that I didn't write that comes up under the name Jacob Floyd. I did write a book of poetry. It's called Man in Shadowland. There's also this poetry that comes up, and it's not me, so don't think that's me. But everything attached to Nightmare Press or Anubis Press, that's me. So, yeah, so that's where you go, Amazon.
Got it, Amazon. And we'll make sure to have all those links below, all links for Nightmare Press, links for submissions for authors to send in their own stories, and links for people to go ahead and pick up the book, Chainsaw Sisters, as well.
Right. We're always, sorry, I was going to say, Nightmare Press is always open to submissions for novels, novellas, and short story collections. So anytime you got something, you can send them there, and we're always looking at them. We don't have just open calls, only for anthologies, but we're always open for those other books.
And we'll make sure to have all those links in the episode notes below too. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, in the description below. Jacob, this has been awesome talking to you. It really has been, and I want to thank you again for taking the time today and being so flexible and coming on and hanging out with me and talking to me about Nightmare Press and talking to me about Chainsaw Sisters and playing the horror game with me too. I mean, it's been great. Is there anything else you would like for all the ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants listening everywhere to know about you or Nightmare Press, or anything you'd like to finish on in general?
Yeah, keep an eye on Nightmare Press because we got some really good books coming out. There's a dark fantasy coming out called The Cursed Diary of a Brooklyn Dog Walker. That's very good. There's an excellent alien story coming out. It's just beautifully written. It's wonderful. And we got a funny book coming out called Whoops, I Woke the Dead. And then we got a really awesome short story collection coming out called Viva la Muerte. So be watching for all that.
Love it. You heard it there, ghouls, gals, creeps, mutants. Keep your eyes on Nightmare Press for all things indie horror author centric and just horror in general. Really, the book is is an art form that will not go away, and it's one that we should definitely cherish, especially when it comes to horror. Again, Jacob, thank you to you, thank you to your wife as well, and thank you for the hard work that both of you are doing with Nightmare Press and helping out the indie scene in that way too. It's a great thing you're doing. Don't ever doubt that. You got the Punk Rock Horror podcast at your backs because we feel what you're doing, and the game recognizes the game, and we have full confidence in what both of you are doing, and you got our support. That's for sure.
Great. I'll send some authors.
Love it. The more authors you can send, the better. We love to bring on any indie creators and give them the spotlight. That's what we started the show for, and we're more than happy to do that. Again, Jacob, thank you so much. Ghouls, Gals, Creeps, and Mutants. Follow Nightmare Press. Give them some love. Give them support. Pick up a copy of Chainsaw Sisters. Make sure you check out that review as well and then get a sneak peek of it on our website. You'll be able to see it there under our PRHP authors section. And with that in mind, make sure you're also sending your submissions for the anthology series towards the links below. And also, again, just support Nightmare Press, support Anubis, and follow and like Jacob, Floyd, and his wife as well. Thank you again, Jacob, for coming on and hanging out with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.